Hello, welcome back to another dollar meal idea crockpot recipe video. I'm so happy you're joining me again for another video. Welcome if you are new here. Just like the last video, each serving is around $1 per serving. I explain this all the time, but a serving slash equals a meal. If it's one person eating it or 6 people, each person's having a meal, so it's $1 or less per serving. And I'm super excited because I'm actually elevating this video a little bit by sharing more ideas for crockpot recipes. I hope you really like them. Make sure you subscribe and give this video a huge thumbs up. It helps me out so much. Let me know if you're new here. Leave me a comment down below. Say hello. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back. I first want to start by saying thank you so much for the amazing response that I got in Saturday's $1 meal easy crockpot video recipe video. You guys blew me like out of the water. I was so impressed with the response of that video, and I had another one on the back burner already started, and I figured, well, I might as well get it up for you. So anyways, I want to share with you really quick this garden vegetable soup from Trader Joe's. It's about 2 servings. It costs the same amount as this first soup that I'm making that I would say is about 6 servings. And I just wanted to share with you that if you're really looking to cut back in your grocery budget, sometimes the less convenient option is more work. Obviously, this is taking a lot more time than opening a can of soup and then just sitting down and enjoying it, but it saves us a lot of money. We go both routes. There is not one route that is better. It's basically based on your lifestyle, but I know a lot of busy people have to use the more convenient option. We do it too, and I'm not shaming anybody that does, but if you have time once a week to make a couple of meals and then put them in the fridge or freezer to have them on hand, and you're looking to cut back on your budget for groceries, it can be a huge game changer. So I'm also saving the scraps because I'm going to share with you how to make some veggie broth at the end, and that's also another really great way to save some money. I haven't bought veggie broth in a couple of years, and almost every recipe I see online has some kind of broth. I'm also going to let you know that this recipe does have tomatoes in it because I had 2 tomatoes I needed to use up in my crisper, but both of these recipes are technically no tomato base because in a couple of my current recipe videos that are up, a lot of people have been asking for no tomatoes as a base for chilies, for soups, etc. And I do realize how often you see tomato bases. And as someone who loves tomatoes, I guess I'm like excited about it, but other than the tomatoes, both the recipes I'm going to share with you today have no tomato base. What's worse? Chopping onions, getting watery eyes, or going to wash your hands to get the onions off of them and then stubbing your toe. Ugh. It's a rough day in this kitchen. I also want to encourage you to use what you have on hand. Like I said, I'm using tomatoes here. You could use peppers. You could use a different type of vegetable. You could use anything you want. It's completely up to you. These recipes are really customizable. All I'm here is to kind of give you a general idea in case that's what you're looking for, or if you're just kind of have food fatigue. We all get that way. Same with seasonings. I don't count seasonings in my budget videos because I don't buy them every single time that I go to the grocery store. And like veggie broth, I don't include either because technically it's free. I make it myself. So I will share the cost with each of the meals that I'm making, plus the bonus item that I'm making, which I have to tell you smells so good because it's currently baking. And hopefully this will give you some great ideas for your own home as well. What I do here on my channel is I just share with you what works for me and my husband. I just put a recipe together and I film it and I share it with you guys in hopes to encourage you to maybe eat a plant-based meal, eat a more budget-forward friendly meal, or just to give you an idea that you can take and use in your own home. And as far as these clips goes, you can clip them if you want to. You don't have to. I didn't. They're more so to carry it, but also keeps the heat in. It's very confusing. But I love my crock pot. It was gifted to me as a housewarming gift, and I will link it down below in case you are in need of one. This is a really wonderful crock pot. All right, while the soup is finishing, let's throw in a little amp this recipe up. So I'm going to make some homemade bread, but I didn't have any yeast on hand, so I found a recipe that doesn't need yeast. And honestly, it turned out really well. I will say I followed the recipe to a T, and I think it needs to bake a little longer than what the recipe said, but I mean, give or take. We also toast our bread, and this is not gluten-free. FYI, this is regular self-rising flour. So the cost you're going to see here at the end is for regular self-rising flour. I didn't have enough gluten-free flour to make a loaf for myself, so my husband would eat this bread, not me, because I try to eat completely gluten-free. But you could definitely make this gluten-free. I think it would turn out just fine. Use like a 1-to-1 replacement flour and you'd be good. So this was extremely inexpensive. We're talking 50 cents for the loaf. 50 cents for a loaf of bread. Again, you can go to the store, you can buy yourself bread. It's super convenient. It takes a lot more time. Obviously, you have the energy of the stove, but you can also make this in the crock pot. I only have one crock pot, so there was no way for me to make the soup and the bread. I had to use it in the use the oven to make the bread. Another thing I want to say really quickly is the reason I don't 100% follow recipes is because, example, I used more water in my recipe than what the recipe called for, because when you are baking bread-like items, depends if you're in a different climate, if it's hot, if it's dry, etc., you might need more or less water. And this is one of the reasons why I love dump and go recipes so much, is because you're not like so like held onto that recipe that you have to make it work. You can learn to cook with your eyes, bake with your eyes, bake with your hands, see how things feel. And I think that's why bread is so intimidating for a lot of people. So if you haven't made a homemade bread, I highly encourage you to try, because you get used to what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like. And I think that will really encourage everyone who, is a home baker or a home cook. Just kind of pushes you outside your comfort zone, but also makes you creative. And the worst that's going to happen, literally guys, the worst that's going to happen is it doesn't turn out. Who cares? That's part of life. It's part of learning, and we all should continue to learn as we grow. This bread was looking so good. It kneaded up super well. Again, it's another thing. I have a no-knead bread recipe here on my channel if you want to check it out. I also have some gluten-free bread recipes. I can link both the videos down in the description box below, or you can just check out my page. You can search for them. My grandma used to never use recipes. She just used to bake and cook with her eyes and her hands. And she was one of the most amazing home chefs in the entire world. And I just want to be like her. So again, the bread, I followed the recipe to a T baking wise, but I definitely think it needed a little extra time. It was 15 minutes at 425, and then you turn the temp down to 350 for an additional 10 minutes. My loaf was rather big. I think it could have used another 10 to 12 minutes at 350. I usually also bake a lot of bread covered, but it really wasn't that bad. And then again, you'll see here in a little bit, I'll cut it. We do toast it, which does help with the cooking process, and that's my husband's preference of eating like homemade bread toasted. So if you're making this at home, I would really encourage you to bake it a little bit longer at the 350 mark, just so the inside gets nice and baked as well. So here is the bread as I'm cutting it up, and I let this sit for multiple hours because we weren't eating the soup until later this day. As you can see, my watch now says 4:45, and I think I started this meal around noonish. So we had it quite some hours later. We're we're early dinner people, like 5 o'clock on the weekends, and then during the week it's like 9 o'clock. So it is what it is. You eat when you're hungry. There's no such thing as a mealtime. So this bread is definitely all the way cooked through. It's just kind of light. And like I said, it could have used an extra, I think, 10 minutes in the oven, but it was toasted. And that, like I said, that's my husband's, like how he likes to eat homemade bread. And as far as the soup goes, it's super hearty. It kind of has like a little bit of a chili flair to it with like a broth base. It's really good. I highly recommend trying this one. This was my husband's favorite meal out of the two. And I just served it up with some bread for him and plant-based butter, and then just a side of the soup stew for me. It was really good. I'll give you some insight on prices, but I do want to say, as I always do in my budget videos, prices are different all over the world. So obviously what I pay for groceries might be less, might be more than what you pay, but this will give you some insight on how I do my planning. So like I said, I don't count my seasonings or my veggie broth because it's not something I'm buying every single week to make said recipes. So my cost are included sweet potatoes, beans, lentils, onion, my carrots and celery, and my Roma tomatoes, which puts me at $4.68. Now, I feel like these crockpot meals aren't as bulky as the ones I made last week, so I broke it down into a 5 serving versus a 6 because last week I used more, I feel like, bulkier ingredients to kind of make it more high calorie, but you can do any kind of servings that you'd like, but it brings it down to 94 cents per meal. And as for the bread, I just included the cost of my flour and sugar because the salt, baking soda, Italian seasoning, and the water are so minimal, but it cost me about 50 cents for the whole loaf. I will link the recipe down in the description box below, but keep in mind I would bake it longer than 10 minutes at 350, but I hope you try this bread recipe. I bet your family will really love it, and you could definitely switch it for gluten-free flour, which will add additional cost, but still super budget friendly. Okay, on to the next recipe. It's a veggie soup. Again, it's not a tomato-based soup. I did broth just to help you guys out. Plus, it saved me from going to the store and getting more tomatoes, which I'm a huge tomato fan, but I also understand that you got to switch it up sometimes. This was so delicious. Out of the two of these, this was my favorite. My husband liked the first one more, but it was like a little bit rainy. I don't know if you could tell that in the first little clips that I shared this morning. And I thought, you know what? It just feels really cozy because it's rainy out and have another crockpot soup. Well, silly me. By the time we ate this, it was 93 and sunny. So it was still fun because it was nice and cool this morning. I had my windows open, my doors open. So I did decide to do sweet potatoes in this recipe as well because I had purchased those for our meal plan this week. And I've shared this before, but I try to purchase 1 to 2 starches to use throughout the week. And it helps us out budget-wise and then kind of keeps things fresh. So I'm not making pasta one night and potatoes one night and rice one night, which is perfectly fine too. But if I keep it more simple, like I did a whole week of oats 2 weeks ago, last week, I'm not even sure what week was it that was. Sometimes I just do potatoes, sometimes we just do rice. It does really help me out. Plus, I think it gives you guys some great ideas as well. If you want to make these meals even cheaper, you could swap the potatoes for pasta, and it would be delicious in either of them. I think these meals are relatively super inexpensive overall. You can obviously switch some of the veggies around. You could switch the chickpeas around. You can make these super customizable. And as for seasonings in this soup, I used turmeric, parsley, and Italian seasoning, I think. I have it listed here coming up, but I'll share with you the prices of this meal as well. Just a quick note, both of these meals I cooked on high for 4 hours because that's the perfect temp for me for sweet potatoes. I accidentally set this one to 2 hours and then realized that and quickly added a asterisk saying, no, it's 4 hours on high, not 2. So just FYI, both of these are 4 hours on high. And then as far as the zucchini goes, I added that in at the very end. Once it had cooked on high for 4 hours, I added my zucchini in for about 30 minutes and it cooked perfectly. And this was really, really good left over, as I feel like all crockpot soups are, and just one of those like set it and forget about it kind of meals, minus the fact that you have to put zucchini in at the end. But honestly, you don't even have to do that unless you want to. Here are the prices again and my cost. So the chickpeas, $1.78, frozen vegetables, $1. You could also do canned veggies, but I find frozen veggies are more cost efficient for us. Sweet potatoes, $1.14 for 1 pound, which I feel like this is just like so back and forth. Like sometimes I'll find them for 89 cents, sometimes for 60. Right now they're a little over $1. Anyways, zucchini, $1 for a total cost of $4.92. Again, I divided this by 5 servings and came out to 98 cents per meal, which I think is wonderful and so delicious. Hello, no makeup, glasses, and it's early in the morning. And I don't normally show up on YouTube like this, but you guys are my best friends. What can I say? We're gonna make some veggie broth with the scraps that I have been saving for the past week. This is about a perfect amount to put in my crock pot. So I'm gonna share with you what I do. Sometimes I do crock pot method. I have as of recently. Sometimes I do stovetop, but honestly the crock pot method is really nice because I can just set it in there and forget about it. Come back 6 hours later, perfect broth. First, thank you so much for letting me feel open to come on here as my real raw self. Wet hair, glasses, no makeup. Second, if you make any snarky comment about it, you can't be my best friend anymore. I know none of us get into the kitchen camera ready every single time we come into our kitchen, but it feels very vulnerable to do so here on YouTube. You all seem to really like the last video so much that I did this one, but I am gonna share Instant Pot and One Pot meals here very soon, so stay tuned. I share every single Thursday, but I also put out bonus videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so make sure you're subscribed and your notifications are turned on so you never miss a brand new video by me. I'll see you soon in another video. Bye-bye.